By 1933, roughly 25 million Americans were unemployed, and across the country, hunger stopped being a temporary hardship and became a way of life. The families who made it through the Great Depression did not survive on proper meals in the way most people imagine. In this video, we are counting down 10 meals families ate just to survive the Great Depression, starting with dishes that were modest but manageable, and ending with meals that show how brutally thin the line between hunger and survival really was. Some of the foods on this list may sound simple at first. Others reveal just how close many families came to losing everything. And by the time we reach number 1, you will understand that these were not just Depression-era recipes, they were survival strategies. If you want to understand how real people survived when food was scarce, subscribe to the channel because each video breaks down exactly what they ate, why it worked, and what kept them going when most wouldn't last. That constant pressure changed the American kitchen. Meals became simpler, heavier, cheaper, and more repetitive. Let's start with number 10. One of the simplest meals on this list, but also one that kept people going when options were almost gone. Number 10, bread and drippings. In better times, drippings were something people saved for cooking. During the Great Depression, they could become the meal itself. When a family was lucky enough to have a little meat, whether it was bacon, salt pork, or a small piece of beef, the grease left behind in the pan was too valuable to throw away. Mothers saved it in jars, tins, or coffee cans by the stove, and when there was not enough else to put on the table, that fat was spread over slices of stale bread or poured over toasted crusts to make something hot, heavy, and filling. It was not a meal anyone looked forward to, but it did something important. It gave the body calories, warmth, and the feeling, however temporary, that you had eaten something substantial. For children, it often became normal. For parents, it was one more way to turn almost nothing into enough. Number 9, potato soup made from scraps. Potatoes became one of the great survival foods of the Depression because they were cheap, easy to store, and could be stretched in ways few other ingredients could. In many homes, potato soup was not made from neat cubes of peeled potatoes the way we think of it today. It was made from whatever parts were left. Peels, bruised ends, small pieces too irregular to serve on their own, all of it went into a pot with water, salt, maybe onion if there was any, and sometimes a little milk to make it feel more like a real supper. The result was thin, plain, and repetitive, but it was hot. And in a period when hunger had become part of daily life, hot mattered. Some families ate versions of this soup for days in a row, adding more water as the pot ran low, stretching one humble dish as far as it could possibly go. Number 8, dandelion salad. When money ran out and gardens were not enough, many families started looking beyond the pantry and into the yard. Dandelion greens, which most people now think of as weeds, became an unexpected source of food during the Great Depression. They were free, they grew almost everywhere, and if picked young enough, they could be eaten raw or lightly cooked without being unbearably bitter. For families with nothing else fresh to serve, that mattered. The leaves were often washed and mixed with onions, a splash of vinegar, or bacon grease if any was available. In better homes, that might have been called a side dish. In harder times, it was supper. What makes a meal like this so revealing is not just how simple it was, but what it says about the moment. Families were no longer just stretching groceries. They were redefining food itself, learning which wild plants could fill a plate and which could not. That kind of knowledge was not a hobby. It was survival. Number 7, milcorno. Some Depression meals came from family ingenuity. Others came from relief programs trying to keep hunger from turning into catastrophe. Milcorno was one of those foods. Made from dried skim milk and cornmeal, it was distributed to struggling families as an inexpensive way to provide calories and some nutrition when regular groceries were out of reach. It could be cooked into porridge, turned into a mush, or thinned into something close to a drink. Very few people remembered it fondly. It was heavy, bland, and monotonous, the kind of food eaten because there was no alternative, not because anyone wanted it. But that was the reality for many households. By that point, taste had stopped being the standard. Relief had become the standard. And even a meal that felt joyless could still mean the difference between getting through the week and not. Number 6, Hoover stew. Few names captured the bitterness of the Great Depression like Hoover stew. Named after President Herbert Hoover, whom many blamed for the country's economic collapse, this dish showed up in relief kitchens, charity lines, and family homes across America. The recipe varied depending on what was available, but it usually involved macaroni, canned tomatoes, corn, and whatever cheap protein could be found, sometimes hot dogs, sometimes scraps of meat, sometimes almost none at all. It was a meal built for volume. It had to be. A pot of Hoover stew could feed several people at once, and that was the point. It did not need to be elegant. It did not need to be balanced. It needed to stretch. It needed to fill bowls. It needed to quiet hunger for one night. For children, it may have seemed ordinary after a while, but for adults, the name alone was a reminder that the country had changed and not for the better. Number 5, creamed chipped beef on toast. At first glance, this sounds more like a recipe than a hardship meal, but during the Depression, it became a common way to make a very small amount of meat feed an entire household. Dried or salted beef was chopped into tiny pieces and stirred into a white sauce made from milk, flour, and whatever fat was available, then poured over toast, biscuits, or stale bread. The sauce made it seem richer than it was. The bread made it go further. And the salt in the beef gave the whole dish enough flavor to feel more satisfying than its ingredients should have allowed. Meals like this were important because they created the illusion of abundance. A little meat, hidden in sauce and spread across bread, could make dinner feel more complete than it really was. That mattered more than it might seem. During the Great Depression, even the appearance of a proper meal could help preserve morale inside a household already carrying too much strain. Number 4, potato pancakes made from leftovers. When even potatoes had to be stretched, families found ways to make yesterday's scraps feel like today's meal. Leftover mashed potatoes were mixed with a little flour, sometimes onion, sometimes an egg if the family had one, then fried into thin cakes in a skillet. The crisp outside made them feel more substantial. The soft middle made them filling. And because they were made from leftovers, they wasted nothing. This was one of the quieter survival foods of the era, not shocking in itself, but deeply revealing. It shows how Depression cooking often worked at its most effective when it transformed yesterday's near-empty meal into something that felt almost new. That kind of reinvention happened constantly. It had to. And as this list keeps moving, the meals become less about thrift and more about how close many families truly came to hunger as a permanent condition. Number 3, bean soup with scraps. Beans were one of the great anchors of survival during the Great Depression because they were cheap, filling, and could last for months. A bag of dried beans could sit in the pantry until needed, and once cooked, they became the base for countless meals. In many homes, bean soup was made with little more than water, salt, and whatever scraps could be spared, maybe a ham bone, maybe onion ends, maybe a small piece of salt pork if the family was fortunate. Often the scraps mattered less for nutrition than for flavor. They gave the pot the illusion of richness, just enough to make a thin meal feel like something more. And that was essential because bean soup was often expected to do enormous work. It fed large families, it reheated well. It could be stretched with more water. It lasted across multiple days. In homes where money barely moved and cupboards stayed half empty, that kind of reliability was priceless. What makes this meal so significant is that it sat right on the line between ordinary food and desperation. It was common, practical, and deeply associated with hard times. But for many families, it also kept them alive. Number 2, fried mush. Few meals show the logic of Depression survival better than fried mush. At its simplest, mush was cornmeal boiled in water until it thickened, then poured into a pan and left to firm up. Once cooled, it could be sliced and fried. That gave it texture, weight, and the feeling of being more than just boiled grain. Sometimes it was eaten plain. Sometimes with syrup if there was any. Sometimes with nothing at all. It was cheap, repetitive, and far from luxurious, but it served a purpose that mattered more than pleasure. It filled the stomach quickly, used ingredients that were affordable, and could be prepared again and again without requiring much from a nearly empty kitchen. For families living week to week, meals like this became routine not because they were loved, but because they were dependable. Cornmeal could wait in the cupboard. Water was free. And in the hardest seasons of the Depression, Dependability was one of the most valuable things a meal could offer. By this point on the list, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. These foods were not simply modest, they were the products of a nation in distress, where survival often depended on how long a family could keep making something out of almost nothing. Number 1. Bread soaked in milk. Of all the meals families ate during the Great Depression, few better capture the fragile line between nourishment and necessity than bread soaked in milk. It was exactly what it sounds like. Stale bread, sometimes little more than crusts, softened in warm milk to make it easier to eat, easier to digest, and more filling than dry bread alone. In some households, a little sugar or cinnamon might be added when available. In many others, there was nothing extra at all. It was simple enough to give to children, soft enough for the elderly, cheap enough to appear when little else remained. And that is exactly why it belongs at number 1, because this was not a clever reinvention or a surprisingly hearty poor man's supper. It was a meal reduced to essentials, bread and liquid, softness and survival. It speaks to a moment when many families were no longer asking how to eat well, but how to eat it all. And that is what these meals reveal when taken together. The Great Depression was not just an economic event. It was a daily test of endurance that played out in kitchens, at tables, and over empty pots all across the country. The people who survived it did so not because they had enough, but because they learned how to make almost anything count. These were not glamorous recipes. They were not nostalgic comforts, at least not at the time. They were the practical, humble, and sometimes unsettling foods that stood between ordinary families and real hunger. And that may be the most important thing to remember. When hard times came, survival did not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looked like a crust of bread, a pan of mush, a pot of beans, or weeds gathered from the yard. Sometimes survival looked like dinner.
The Great Depression did not just ruin the economy of the United States. It destroyed dreams, shook homes, and forever changed the lives of millions of families. At every empty table, in every simple meal, there was a silent struggle for survival. If you lived through this time, heard stories from your family, or know any facts about this period, share them in the comments. And do not forget to follow the channel to relive more stories and facts from America.